Okay, imagine this. You step back into January 1985.
Right.
You walk into an office equipment showroom, maybe, and you need something to print your documents.
No laser jets yet, obviously.
Forget laser jets. You're looking at something like a Fujitsu SP320 daisy wheel printer.
Oh, the daisy wheels.
Yeah.
Clackety-clack.
Exactly. Capable of a, well, let's call it a stately 48 characters per second.
Stately is one word for it. Slow is probably more accurate.
Fair enough. Now, the price tag. Get this. 1,450 pounds.
Oof.
And remember, that's before the dreaded VAT, value-added tax.
Yeah, you always had to add that on top, didn't you?
Yeah.
So when we adjust that for inflation, what are we talking today's money?
We're talking approximately 5,500 pounds.
5,500 pounds.
For a peripheral.
Wow. Just wow. $5,500 for this, like, mechanical beast whose only job was spitting out text.
Slowly.
Incredibly slowly. And noisily. Oh, the noise. And low-resolution text at that.
No graphics, nothing fancy, just hammering characters onto paper.
Yeah, just hammered away, literally.
It's absolutely mind-bending, isn't it?
It really is.
5,500 pounds today buys you, well, a seriously powerful laptop. Maybe a 3D printer, too.
Oh, easily. And probably cloud storage for years. Things they couldn't even dream of back in '85.
Exactly. But that crazy price tag that Fujitsu printer cost, that's kind of the lens we're using for this deep dive.
Right. We're looking at the truly insane, sometimes illogical, and frankly, crippling costs of computing back in the mid-'80s.
And our primary source for this, we've cracked open the ads, specifically from the January 1985 issue of Personal Computer World.
Which is a major UK computing magazine back then. A cornerstone, really.
Yeah, definitely. And we're treating this magazine almost like an economic artifact.
Looking at the ads to figure out the real price of getting involved in the digital revolution back then.
And these ads, they really show a market caught right at a fascinating point, a crossroads.
Absolutely. You've still got the established, affordable 8-bits home micros.
Your Sinclair Spectrums, your Commodore 64s, the machines that really got computers into homes and schools in the UK.
Yeah, the pioneers for the masses.
Yeah.
But then, on the other side,
You've got this aggressive push, the high-stakes emergence of the 16-bit serious business machines.
IBM PC, of course. The UK's own Apricot, which was a big deal here.
And the early Apple Macintosh starting to make waves.
And these weren't seen as toys at all. They were expensive bits of capital equipment.
Right. And the marketing had to reflect that kind of seriousness, that gravity.
Totally.
So the mission for this deep dive, we're going to dissect the economics of both those worlds, the home hobbyist and the serious business user.
What did it really cost to get set up in January 1985?
Well, we'll look at the hardware, obviously, but also the hidden costs, things like training, getting things to actually work together.
Compatibility. The nightmare.
Exactly. And the marketing hype trying to make these enormous price tags seem like, well, a bargain somehow.
We're going to show you, I think, why the CPU, the actual computer brain, wasn't always the biggest expense.
It was often the peripherals, wasn't it? The things you needed just to make the system usable.
That's where the real money went.
Okay, let's dive into that fundamental cost of entry. Because looking through these January 85 prices, wow, the gap between the home hobbyist and the business user is just enormous.
It really is. It's not just different features. It's like different economic universes entirely.
Yeah, a totally two-tiered system.
Definitely. You had software priced, so, a kid doing their homework could maybe afford it.
Right.
And then you had software priced for, like, finance departments signing off on massive company investments.
So let's take an example from the 8-bit home market. Price was everything there.
Oh, absolutely critical.
If you had a ZX Spectrum, the beloved Specie,
Yep.
You could get a word processor, something like TazWord 2. Pretty decent for the time.
It did the job.
And it cost £13.90.
$13.90. Okay.
Which is perfectly manageable. Adjusting for inflation, that's around 53 taels today.
Right, so achievable. A teenager can save with their pocket money, maybe do a paper round for a few weeks.
Exactly. Now, compare that £13.90 program to the cost of an actual business system.
Okay, let's brace ourselves.
We see ads for the Apricot She. That was a heavily marketed 16-bit British machine. Pretty innovative for its time.
Yeah, Apricot really pushed the envelope.
This particular one came with a, get this, luxurious 10-megabyte hard disk.
Ooh, 10 megs. That was serious capacity back then.
And the system price, £3,363 plus VAT.
£3,363 plus the VAT.
Right, which, as a major capital purchase for a business, What does that come to today?
Well over 12,700 pounds in 2025 money.
12,700 pounds.
And hold on, that's before you bought any major software applications for it.
That's just the box and the hard drive.
Basically, yeah, the hardware foundation.
When you see figures like that, 12,700 pounds, you suddenly understand why the marketing for these 16-bit machines had to be so focused.
Focused on what
On
exactly?
legitimization. They weren't just selling a computer.
No,
They were selling an essential business transformation tool, something that justified that huge outlay.
precisely. They had to convince companies, look, this 12,700 pounds investment, it's going to save you so much in typist salaries, filing cabinets, and lost time that it'll pay for itself.
It had to be framed as an investment, not an expense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The astronomical upfront cost was a huge barrier, obviously.
Yeah.
But weirdly, it also became a kind of badge,
How so?
a signifier of seriousness. Like, we're a proper company, we invest in the best technology, even if the best was eye-wateringly expensive.
Right. Let's focus a bit more on those high-end 16-bit systems then. The sort of titans defining the office in '85.
Okay, the big players.
Top of the list has to be the IBM PCXT. That was the standard, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, the benchmark. Everything was measured against the IBM, even if they were trying to beat it.
And it was staggeringly expensive.
No kidding. An IBM PCXT, especially if you wanted that productivity booster, the 10-megabyte Winchester hard disk.
Which everyone did. Right. Floppies were okay, but the hard disk was the dream for serious work.
Absolutely. That configuration, the PCXT with the 10-meg drive, was priced at 2,820 quid, plus tax. Today's money,
Roughly 10,700 pounds.
10,700 pounds for the standard office machine.
Yep. Now let's pause on that. Because the IBM was the standard, it was hugely expensive. But what did the rivals always say about it?
Yeah. They constantly called it slow.
Right,
Wasn't it?
slow. Why was the market leader, the machine everyone was copying or competing against, considered sluggish?
Good question. Why was it?
It goes right down to the nuts and bolts, the architecture, something we kind of forget today with standardized systems.
Okay.
The original IBM PC design, it used the Intel 8088 CPU, which was technically a 16-bit processor internally.
Right.
But, and this is the crucial bit, it used an 8-bit bus for talking to everything else. Memory, peripherals, the hard drive controller.
So the data pipe was narrower. Exactly. It limited how fast data could actually move around the system.
Yeah.
Even though the brain was 16-bit, the pathways were only 8-bit wide. It created a bottleneck.
Okay, I see.
So rivals, like the apricot machines, often used a more fully 16-bit architecture. Their data buses were wider.
Meaning they could genuinely claim better performance.
Yeah, especially for things that really hammered the system, like recalculating a big spreadsheet. They could be noticeably faster.
So the IBM was expensive and slow. That seems like a massive opportunity for competitors.
Huge. And that's where companies like Apricot really jumped in, especially here in the UK.
The Apricot series, the F1, the PC, the She we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, they marketed themselves very aggressively as the clever British alternative. Better value, more innovative.
They definitely pushed innovation. I remember the Apricot F1 being advertised as portable.
It was. Under 13 pounds, the ads claimed, which was genuinely light for a serious machine back then.
And they pioneered things like an infrared keyboard and mouse, right?
They did. Getting rid of those annoying cables snaking across the desk. That felt futuristic in '85.
So even though an Apricot PC, say, with 2 floppy drives and a monitor, was still $1,939 plus VAT,
Which is still a hefty 7,350 pounds or so today.
compared to the 10,700-pound IBM XT, it suddenly looked like a bit of a bargain.
Exactly. And they hammered that performance advantage in their ads. Mercilessly.
Oh, the ad copy is fantastic. It's so direct.
Isn't it just? You see quotes literally attacking IBM. Things like, you wonder why you put up with the IBM for so long.
And that other one, claiming Apricot's flexibility, leaves the IBM PC for dead.
I mean, imagine saying that today about a market leader. It shows how high the stakes were. Price wasn't the only battleground. They had to attack IBM's technical reputation head-on.
They were trying to convince those corporate buyers, the ones signing the big checks, that IBM wasn't necessarily the best, just the biggest.
Precisely. Meanwhile, you also had Apple trying to carve out its niche.
With the Macintosh. Still pretty new then, wasn't it? Launched just the year before, '84.
Yeah, the Mac was the radical newcomer. We see ads for the 512K version, the Fat Mac.
And the price for that slice of graphical user interface magic.
2,128 plus VAT.
Wowza.
About 8,070 pounds in today's money. A
Yeah.
massive commitment.
So Apple, just like Apricot, really needed to justify why someone should step outside the safe IBM world.
Definitely. And you see their ads doing similar things, quoting magazines that call the rival machine. And you have to assume they mean the Mac, significantly faster and more powerful than the IBM PC.
So everyone was ganging up on IBM's performance?
Pretty much. They were all united in trying to paint IBM's dominance as, maybe based on legacy and marketing muscle, not necessarily superior tech for the price.
So let's just summarize that hardware cost. If you were a business in Jan 85 needing a serious computer.
You weren't popping down the shops for a cheap tool.
No way. You were committing the modern equivalent of somewhere between, what, 7,000 pounds and maybe 12,700 pounds just for the main box.
Yeah, maybe even more, depending on the configuration. A significant capital expense.
Easily comparable to putting down a deposit on a house back then or buying a decent new car.
Absolutely. And the scary part,
What's that?
that was just the start of the spending.
Right, because once you've shelled out 5 figures, inflation adjusted, for the computer itself, you actually need software to do anything with it.
Exactly. And we're not talking about a quick download from an app store here. This brings us to Section C, Essential Business Software Costs.
This was serious stuff. High margin packages, really bespoke in many ways.
Yeah, these programs were designed to automate tasks that businesses did manually for decades. Typing pools, massive filing systems, ledger books.
So the software promised huge efficiency gains, which justified the price, I guess.
That was the idea. Look at the prices, though. Lotus 123, the absolute king of spreadsheets back then.
The program that people said sold the IBM PC.
Arguably, yes. Its
Yeah.
cost, 349 pounds.
349 pounds
Yeah.
in 1985.
Which today is roughly 1,325.
1,300 quid for one program, a spreadsheet. Yep.
Its database counterpart, DBase 2. Absolutely fundamental for managing records, client lists, inventory, you name it.
How much was that?
$279.
Still hefty.
Pushes just over 1,050 pounds when you adjust for inflation.
1,000 pounds for a database program.
And even the cheaper options weren't exactly cheap. SuperCalc 3, which was often advertised as the budget alternative to Lotus,
Yeah.
still $225.
Which is about 850 pounds today.
850 pounds for the budget spreadsheet.
It's actually startling, isn't it? You could buy a whole modern computer capable of incredible things for less than the inflation-adjusted price of one of those core 1985 business applications.
It really highlights how much value was placed on just the ability to process information automatically back then. It was revolutionary.
And the irony is these programs weren't optional extras.
Not at all. They were mandatory. Businesses bought the expensive computers specifically to run Lotus or DBase or WordStar.
So the hardware was almost just the delivery vehicle.
In many ways, yes. It was the platform for this incredibly expensive essential software that supposedly justified the whole business investment. The intellectual property was king.
And we also see in the ads the industry trying to maybe soften that blow or add value by introducing integrated packages.
Ah, yes. Things like Symphony from Lotus and Ashton Tate's framework.
What were they?
They were attempts to bundle the main functions, word processing, spreadsheet, database, maybe communications, into one single cohesive system.
Sort of like an early version of Microsoft Office?
Exactly, a direct precursor. It shows that even back then, vendors knew they needed to offer a breadth of features to try and rationalize these software price tags that ran into the thousands in today's money.
Okay, so you've bought the 10,000-pound computer, you've bought the 1,300-pound spreadsheet. Surely you're done spending now.
Not even close. Because the financial commitment didn't stop when you got the boxes home and installed the floppy disks.
What else was there?
Training. The sheer complexity of these early programs led to this critical and often expensive requirement.
Because the software wasn't exactly user-friendly.
Far from it. Powerful, yes. Intuitive, absolutely not. This is a cost people often forget when looking back at vintage tech.
We kind of take GUIs and easy onboarding for granted now.
Completely. Back in 1985, mastering something like DBase 2 involved learning arcane commands, memorizing precise syntax.
Poring over thick, dense manuals for hours.
Days, more like. The learning curve wasn't just steep, it was practically vertical. Training wasn't optional. It was a necessary part of the purchase to actually get value from the software.
And the ads reflect this. We see lots of advertisements for training courses.
Yeah, continuous courses for microcomputers, word processing, often running 7 days a week.
Held in dedicated training centers, often using those expensive IBM PCs themselves.
Right. And the cost of the training reflected the expertise needed. and the cost of the equipment being used.
How much are we talking?
Well, a 2-day intensive course on WordStar, which was the standard word processor, despite being notoriously tricky to learn, cost 85 quid plus VAT.
85 quid plus tax. What's that today?
About 322 pounds. For 2 days to learn one program.
And learning it quickly was vital if you wanted to be productive.
Absolutely. And if you wanted to really get to grips with the high-end stuff, the programs that cost over $1,000 to buy in the first place.
Like Lotus 123 or DBase 2?
Exactly. The training costs went up significantly. A 3-day intensive course for either of those. 195 down plus VAT.
195 plus VAT, which today is
Almost 740 pounds.
740 pounds, just to learn how to use one piece of software over 3 days.
Yep. There was one place, the Executive Computer Center, explicitly advertising hands-on courses for all the big names: Lotus, WordStar, Multiplan, DBase 2, DBase 3.
And what was their pitch?
Promising to teach users how to realize the full power of the personal computer. It implies you couldn't unlock that power without their expensive help.
So let's add it all up for a typical corporate setup.
Okay.
You've got your 10,705 equivalent IBM PCXT.
Right.
You've got your 1,325 equivalent Lotus 123 software.
Yep.
And now you need to add another 740 pounds for the training course just to become competent enough to use the expensive software on the expensive machine effectively.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
It created this incredibly high barrier to entry. It really underlines that technical skill itself was an exclusive, costly commodity back then.
You didn't just buy the tools, you had to buy the knowledge to wield them.
And that knowledge was guarded by a hefty fee. The prices almost reinforced the aspirational value, like only serious professionals would, or could, make this kind of total commitment.
Okay, if Section 1 set the scene with the sky-high costs of the main computer and the essential software.
And the training. Don't forget the training.
Right, and the training. Section 2 is where we fall headfirst into the peripheral money pit.
Ah, yes. This is where the costs became truly unavoidable, really, for businesses and for the ambitious home user.
Because the moment you needed to do anything physical with your digital data printed out, store more than a few files.
The price of your initial setup, even if you started with an affordable home micro like a Spectrum, just exploded.
And for many people, the printer became the single biggest hardware expense, didn't it? Even more than the computer sometimes.
Often, yes. Especially if you compare it to the entry-level home computers.
Let's really dig into the sheer brutal cost of printing again. A basic home user, maybe they paid $125 for their ZX Spectrum.
A bargain, really.
But then to actually get text onto paper, they might find themselves spending 2, maybe 3 times that amount.
It's wild. We need to break down the printer options available in Jan 85. There were basically 2 main types people were buying.
Okay, what's first?
Dot matrix. This is the standard workhorse printer.
Loud.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Very loud. Reasonably fast for the time, though. And it worked by firing tiny pins through an inked ribbon onto the paper.
Creating characters out of little dots, hence the name. Could they do graphic?
Basic ones, yeah. Because they built the image dot by dot.
And then the prices for dot matrix.
Spanned a massive range.
Yeah.
At the very bottom, you could get something like a Cosmos 80 for 169 plus VAT.
Okay, 169 plus tax.
Puts it close to 640 pounds today. Still quite a bit for the cheapest option.
But if you wanted something more reliable, maybe for a small office or a serious home use?
You'd look at the Epson FX80. That thing was everywhere. Truly ubiquitous.
I remember those chunky beige boxes.
That's the one. That cost 315 pounds plus VAT.
Which is nearly 1,200 pounds in modern money.
1,200 quid for a standard dot matrix. And if you were a bigger business needing better quality and speed.
You'd go high-end dot matrix.
Yeah, maybe the 24-pin models, which gave better resolution, like the Epson LQ1500. That was 980 pounds plus VAT.
980 pounds plus VAT. Today, that's
An astonishing 3,720s.
3,700 pounds for a dot matrix printer. A noisy machine that rattled the whole desk and produced text you could see the dots in.
Madness. But even that wasn't good enough for some applications. The business world often demanded something better.
Ah, yes, letter quality.
That was the buzzword. Letter quality meant daisy wheel technology.
Like our friend the Fujitsu SP320 from the intro.
Exactly. This was seen as the absolute peak of professional output. You needed it for things like legal documents, important invoices, formal letters to clients.
Because it didn't use dots, right?
Correct. Unlike dot matrix, the daisy wheel printer used a wheel, usually plastic, with preformed characters embossed on the ends of spokes. like an electronic typewriter, essentially.
So the output looked like it came from a typewriter's solid, fully formed letters.
Precisely. But that mechanical precision came at an incredible cost, and usually much slower speeds than dot matrix.
So a cheaper daisy wheel like the Juki 6100,
That was advertised at 325 plus VAT.
which is still over 1,230 pounds today.
Yep. But for the real speed and perceived professionalism in the daisy wheel world, you circled back to the high-end models.
Like the Fujitsu SP320, 1,450 pounds plus VAT.
Our 5,500-pound inflation-adjusted centerpiece. And it wasn't just the cost. Think about using that thing.
The noise must have been immense.
Unbelievable. The whole office would know when someone was printing. This mechanical arm whipping around, slamming the character pedal against the ribbon and paper. A really sharp, penetrating noise.
And if you wanted to change the font, like from Times Roman to Courier?
You couldn't just click a button. You had to physically stop the printer, open the lid, unclip the current plastic daisy wheel, find the other font wheel you owned.
Which you also had to buy separately, presumably.
Oh, absolutely. And clip the new wheel in, close it up, and restart. It was a whole process.
It really puts that 5,500 pounds price tag in perspective. You were paying for intricate mechanics and the status of letter quality, not digital smarts.
Absolutely. It underlines that for many businesses, the printer, the output device, was arguably more critical than the computer itself.
Okay, so printing was a money pit. What about storage? Floppy disks were okay, but capacity was tiny.
Right. The need for more data storage was growing fast. This drove the demand for hard drives, back then often called Winchester drives.
Winchester, why that name?
It originally referred to an IBM project name, apparently, for a drive with two 30-megabyte platters, like a 3030 rifle cartridge. The name stuck for sealed hard drive technology for a while.
Okay, and these were massive expenses, too.
Oh, yeah. We see ads listing 10-megabyte hard disks compatible with the IBM PC, the Sirius, the NEC machines.
10 megs.
And the cost.
12,295 pounds.
1,295 pounds. Before tax. For 10 megabytes, what's that now?
Get ready for it, 4,900 pounds.
4,900 pounds for 10 megs.
Yep. To put that in perspective, 10 megabytes today is maybe, 3 decent smartphone photos?
Or a few seconds of compressed video.
Something like that. And you paid almost $5,000 equivalent for that capacity in 1985.
Why on earth were they so expensive?
Well, the Winchester technology itself, having the read-write heads and the disk platters sealed in a clean enclosure, was a huge leap in reliability compared to older removable disk packs or big floppy drives.
So you paid for that precision engineering. Exactly. That, the significant speed advantage over floppy disks, and the fact it was fixed storage, it felt like a major permanent upgrade. A serious business asset.
But having this expensive, presumably somewhat fragile hard drive created a whole new problem, didn't it?
It certainly did. What happens if your 4,900 pounds hard drive crashes?
Disaster. You lose everything. Your accounts, your documents.
Exactly. That risk fueled a secondary market for essential and also expensive utility software, specifically data backup.
Making copies just in case the worst happened.
Precisely. We found ads for a program called CIAP Compressed Library Interchange Program.
And its job was backup.
Yep. Advertised for 95 pounds plus VAT.
95 quid plus tax. Nearly 360 pounds today, just for backup software.
I know. The ad copy is great, really stresses the anxiety. Back up your troubles in your old Sealy Bay bag.
Ah, nice.
It highlights that backing up your precious 10-LB Winchester drive onto floppy disks was a real chore.
How many floppies would that take? A standard floppy back then held, 360K?
Yeah, something like that for double-sided, double density on the PC. So you'd need maybe 30 floppy disks to back up 10 megabytes, maybe more without compression.
Wow. So CLIP compressed the data to make it fit on fewer floppies.
That was the selling point, making the tedious backup process slightly less painful and hopefully more reliable.
And speaking of floppy disks themselves, the actual media, the market for those seems incredibly fierce.
Oh, it was, because users were genuinely terrified about data loss. A bad floppy could wipe out hours or days of work.
We found that amazing ad from Barbican Manufacturing, didn't we?
Oh, the Barbican ad. It's hilariously aggressive.
The headline just shouts, "You didn't buy Barbican."
It's pure marketing by fear. They don't just
Yeah.
sell their quality. They slag off the competition mercilessly.
They actually claim that some bargain discs were factory seconds made in the US and then dumped abroad on unsuspecting Brits.
Yeah, tapping right into that core user anxiety, data integrity. Is this cheap disk going to corrupt my vital spreadsheet?
So Barbican positioned themselves as the premium, reliable choice.
First quality only. selling single-sided double-density 5.25-inch discs, meaning you could only reliably use one side in packs of 25.
And they backed it up with quite a warranty.
A forever and a day warranty. Plus a 3-for-1 replacement if a disc actually failed. They were selling peace of mind at a premium price.
It just shows that even the humble floppy disk, the cheapest part of the data chain, was still a high-stakes purchase.
Absolutely. And finally, in this peripheral pit, even the furniture got specialized and expensive.
You couldn't just plonk your new 7,000-pound apricot system on the kitchen table.
Well, you could, but it wouldn't look very professional, and you'd have cables trailing everywhere.
Yeah.
The ads show dedicated computer desks becoming a thing.
We found one called the CompuDesk, aimed at home users.
Yeah, specifically marketed for the Spectrum or Commodore 64 owner, styled in a lovely, rich teak effect finish.
Very 80s. How much?
£59.50.
Which is about 225 pounds today. For a flat-pack desk.
Sold on the promise of easy assembly and making your home computer setup look neat and professional.
The underlying message was clear. If you're investing this much money, even in a home computer, you need the proper setup. The desk itself became part of the perceived value.
It all added up: the printer, the storage, the backup software, the disks, the desk, a constant drain on the wallet.
Okay, so we've established the huge cost of the computer, the software, the training, the printer, the storage, the desk. Now we hit perhaps the biggest hidden cost. Or maybe not so hidden, just incredibly frustrating.
The massive technical friction, getting all those expensive boxes to actually talk to each other.
We're calling this the interface tax.
That's a perfect name for it.
Yeah.
Because this really was the Wild West era of connectivity. Utter chaos.
Today, you buy a new gadget, it's got USB or Wi-Fi or Bluetooth.
And it just works. Plug and play, mostly.
In 1985, forget it, there was this profound lack of universal standards. Every manufacturer, it seemed, had their own way of doing things, their own plugs, their own protocols.
It was a nightmare. We found that amazing quote in one of the ads, didn't we? From a retailer called Micro General.
Oh, this quote deserves to be famous. It perfectly sums up the era. Listen to this.
Okay.
Bring your micro to us and match with our range of printers, full workshop facilities available to iron out all technical hitches.
Iron out all technical hitches.
Yeah.
Using full workshop facilities.
I mean, that single sentence tells you everything. The default assumption was that things would not work together out of the box.
Totally. Incompatibility was the norm. And the solution wasn't a software patch. It was physically taking your expensive computer and your expensive printer down to a shop.
So some technician in a back room could literally tinker with wires, maybe solder connections, reprogram interface chips.
Until, hopefully, they managed to get the two devices to have a successful conversation. A digital handshake.
It's terrifying. And
Sure.
Solving that basic problem, just getting A to talk to B, required buying more hardware?
Yes. Hardware often dedicated solely to bridging that communication gap. That's the core of your interface tax.
Let's look at a really common example, the ZX Spectrum again. Hugely popular home computer. You wanted to print something, you probably bought a standard dot matrix printer. Right?
Most likely. And most of those printers used a specific type of connection.
The Centronics parallel port, kind of the standard for printers back then, big chunky connector.
Right. But the Spectrum, bless its minimalist heart, did not have a Centronics parallel port built in.
So,
Problem.
big problem.
No.
Solution. You had to buy an adapter, an interface box.
Like the Tasman printer interface we saw advertised?
Exactly. A little box that plugged into the Spectrum's expansion port on the back and provided a Centronics socket for your printer cable.
And that little adapter cost how much?
£39.90.
$39.90, which is about 150 pounds today.
Yep. 150 pounds extra just to make the most basic connection possible between your computer and a standard printer. A non-negotiable overhead. The interface tax in action.
And it wasn't just the cheap home computers, was it? Even more advanced machines had these issues.
Oh, absolutely. Sinclair's next big thing, the ambitious but flawed Sinclair QL, that 16-bit machine.
Yeah. It also needed its own special hardware fix to talk to standard printers.
Seriously?
Yep. The Cosmos QL interface. Its job. Connect the QL to a parallel printer. Cost: £49.95 plus VAT.
50 quid plus tax. Around 190 pounds today. Again, just for a basic connection.
And often these interface boxes weren't just simple adapters. They contained extra ROM chips with software drivers.
Why?
Because the computer's own operating system might not have had the built-in routines to handle sending data out reliably through that specific port configuration. The interface box had to provide the smarts as well as the socket.
Wow. Okay, so the interface tax hit you when connecting computer to printer. What about other office
Oh,
scenarios?
it cropped up everywhere. Simple logistics became hardware problems.
Yeah.
Imagine you're a small business. You've maybe stretched the budget to buy 2 of those expensive apricot PCs.
Okay.
But you could only afford one of those incredibly expensive Fujitsu daisy wheel printers, the 5,500 pounds one.
Right. How do both PCs use the one printer? You can't just network them easily like today.
Exactly. You needed another dedicated bit of kit, a printer switch box.
What did that do?
It was literally a box with maybe one input cable socket going to the printer and 2 or more output sockets for cables going to the computers, and a big clunky switch on the front.
So you physically had to turn a dial or press a button to select which computer was connected to the printer at that moment.
That's exactly it. Manual switching. And these simple A/B switch boxes started from 85 pound plus VAT.
85 pounds plus tax, over 320 pounds today for a manual switch.
Yep. Paying a premium just for the ability to redirect a printer cable without having to physically unplug and replug it every time.
This whole compatibility mess also created another problem, didn't it? Efficiency.
Huge issue. Because those printers, especially the daisy wheels, were so mechanically slow.
48 characters per second.
Your powerful, expensive 10,000-pound IBM PC would send the print job, and then it would just sit there, idle, waiting.
While the printer chugged away for maybe minutes or even hours on a long document.
Exactly. The computer CPU was tied up managing the print queue, unable to do anything else until the printer finished.
Which totally negated the point of having a fast computer for productivity.
Precisely. It hammered your return on investment, which led directly to the next specialized, expensive peripheral.
Go on.
The printer buffer.
A buffer? What's that?
It was basically a standalone box filled with RAM memory chips. Its job was to sit between the computer and the printer.
How did it help?
The computer could dump the entire print job into the buffer's memory almost instantly at high speed.
Freeing up the computer's CPU immediately to get back to other work.
Exactly. The buffer then stored the job and slowly, patiently fed the data out to the clunky old printer at the printer's own pace in the background.
Clever, but I bet they weren't cheap.
You bet correctly. Simple buffers, maybe with 64K of RAM, started at 65.5 plus VAT.
Okay.
But we saw ads for more advanced devices, like something called the TSB64 buffer share. That cost 245 pounds.
245 pounds for a buffer box.
Yeah, and it was marketed specifically as a cost-effective alternative to buying multiple expensive printers or setting up really complex early network servers.
What made the TSB64 special? Did it combine the buffer and the switchbox idea?
Sort of. It was promoted as having 3 inputs so multiple computers could connect to it, and it had a very basic automatic switching system.
How did that work?
It would apparently scan each input port every 5 seconds, checking if a computer was trying to send data. If it detected data, it would lock onto that port, accept the job into its buffer, print it, and then go back to scanning.
Primitive queuing.
Very primitive. But this expensive box, 245 bahams is over 900 pounds today, was considered a smart investment to stop your 10,000-pound PC users from twiddling their thumbs while waiting for the printer.
It really highlights a different focus in engineering back then, doesn't it?
How do you mean?
Today, so much effort goes into software efficiency, network protocols, standardized drivers, making things work seamlessly.
Right.
Back then, it seems they just kept throwing more expensive hardware boxes at the problem to patch over the fundamental lack of standards and the slowness of the peripherals.
That's a pretty good summary, actually. Hardware solutions were sold at great expense to fix basic communication flaws.
And if you were a home user, this technical friction showed up in a slightly different but equally painful way.
Let me guess. Cassette tapes.
The dreaded screech of the data cassette. Loading times were excruciatingly slow.
Minutes and minutes of that high-pitched whine, only for it to often end with tape load error right at the very end. Soul-destroying.
And even as disk drives started becoming more affordable for home machines like the Commodore 64,
Which were much faster than tape.
there was still this huge backlog of software that only existed on cassette. Games, utilities.
Yeah, thousands of titles.
Wow.
So another market sprang up to solve this problem.
Utilities like fast loaders. We saw ads for RBS and Discus specifically for the Commodore 64.
Right, what was their job?
Their job was to take a program from a slow standard cassette tape, convert it into some kind of proprietary turbo load format,
Faster loading code.
and then let you save that turbo version onto a floppy disk. So next time you loaded it from the disk, it would bypass the slow tape routines and load much quicker.
Clever. Did they give examples?
RBS made a specific promise. They boasted they could take The Hobbit, a classic, pretty large text adventure game.
Took ages to load from tape.
They claimed their utility could get it loaded from disk in 120 seconds. 2 minutes. Which was lightning fast compared to the tape version.
That's a tangible benefit.
Yeah, they advertised it as a new generation utility, building on older tools, and the resulting programs loaded independently without needing extra hardware cartridges plugged in, a pure software fix.
But it was still a software hustle, wasn't it?
Absolutely. The user was paying extra money for a program whose entire purpose was just to make loading other programs less painful.
All because the standard hardware, the cassette interface, was fundamentally slow and inefficient. Another tax, in a way. The slow-loading tax.
Huh. I like that. The interface tax, the slow loading tax. It all adds up.
So we've laid out the staggering costs, financial and technical. It begs the question, how on earth did the industry persuade people, businesses, and home users to part with so much cash for such difficult technology?
Good question. It seems they didn't just sell features, they sold something bigger. A cultural idea.
Like what?
Self-improvement, professional legitimacy, brain power even.
Brain power. Okay, tell me more.
The best example is that ad campaign for the Brain Power software range. It's just brilliant marketing psychology.
Oh, I may have that one.
It features this cartoon drawing of a home computer looking kind of sad and neglected.
Right.
And there's a speech bubble coming from its screen that says, "When will he stop using me like a toy and start using me like a brain?"
Ah, I remember. That's genius.
Isn't it? That single image perfectly captures the industry's big worry and its strategic shift around 1985.
What was the worry?
That microcomputers were still seen primarily as game machines, toys, especially the home ones.
Right. They needed to break out of that image.
Exactly. The marketing had to work really hard to legitimize the computer as a tool for serious work, serious thinking, personal development.
And the Brain Power software range itself reflected that.
Totally. The titles sounded very serious. Decision Maker, Star Watcher, which is probably astronomy related, Project Planner.
Not exactly Space Invaders.
Definitely not. And the ad copy framed this software not as fun, but as tools for, quote, stretching both your mind and your imagination and helping you realize your own full potential.
Wow. High aspirations for a 15-pound program.
Well, yeah. The prices were actually quite affordable for home users, £14.95 to £24.95 for the Spectrum BBC Micro C64.
So the idea was, even if you were a hobbyist, buying this software made you feel like you were doing something profound.
Exactly. Making a serious investment in your own intellect, your own capabilities, not just playing games. You were buying legitimacy for your hobby.
That makes sense. And that quest for legitimacy must have been even more intense in the business market.
Oh, absolutely. The marketing tactics there were often incredibly aggressive, especially towards the big guy.
IBM again.
Always IBM. Competitors had to give businesses a really compelling reason, emotional, economic, technical, to risk not buying the safe IBM option.
Even though choosing IBM often meant paying more for slower performance, as we discussed.
Right. But IBM compatibility was the safe harbor for software, so rivals had to shout really loud.
We saw those direct attack lines earlier.
You wonder why you put up with the IBM for so long? Or claiming a rival leaves the IBM PC for dead.
That confrontational language was designed to hit a nerve, right? Tap into the business manager's potential frustration with IBM's price and maybe its perceived arrogance.
Definitely. But making that jump, choosing an Apricot or a Sanyo instead of an IBM, was still a big risk. What if your crucial accounting software only ran properly on IBM?
Good point. So how did the non-IBM sellers counter that fear?
They relied heavily on the power of the bundle.
Bundling everything together.
Exactly. They justified the high initial price of their system by throwing in practically everything you could possibly need to be productive from day one, making it seem like a complete guaranteed solution.
Got an example.
The London Computer Centre, LCC, they advertised an LCC special bundle specifically for the Apricot F1, that portable machine.
What was in the bundle?
The computer, obviously, but also the monitor, the printer, all the cables needed, a box of floppy disks, even printer paper.
So literally everything you needed to plug it in and start working.
Pretty much. They weren't just selling bits, they were selling a working installation. And they claimed huge savings compared to buying it all separately.
Taking the hassle and the risk out of it for the buyer.
That was the goal. And some retailers took bundling to an absolute extreme. PAM Computers had a bundle for a Sanyo MBC 555 system.
Sanyo made computers. I thought they just did TVs and stereos.
They did. They had a range of IBM-compatible-ish machines. This Sanyo bundle cost $1,550 plus VAT.
Okay, still significant. Over 5,800 pounds today. What did you get for that?
Get ready. You got the Sanyo computer, MSDS, the operating system. Then you got Sage accounts,
Big accounting package.
WordStar word processor, mail merge for form letters, CalcStar spreadsheet, InfoStar database,
Oh, that's 5 major business applications.
plus a printer, plus disks, plus paper, and critically, 2 days of free on-site training included in the price.
2 days of training thrown in. That's huge, given what we know about training costs.
It shows that the only way to make that 5,800 pound price tag palatable was to present it as this totally comprehensive, risk-free, guaranteed-to-work solution.
They were essentially selling zero friction efficiency, or the promise of it, in a world that was naturally full of friction and incompatibility.
Exactly. Now, beyond these main business and home markets, the ads also reveal some really interesting, maybe unexpected niche cultures that grew up around computers back then.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
It shows the computer was becoming more than just a number cruncher or word processor. My absolute favorite find was that ad from ESSP Distribution.
ESSP, Electronic Synthesizer Sound Projects.
That's the one. And they were selling computer books, like The Musician and The Micro.
Okay, makes sense. Computers and music synthesis were starting to merge.
But they were selling these books right alongside vinyl records and actual compact discs, which were still pretty new and exotic themselves in '85.
CDs by who?
By the giants of electronic music. Jean-Michel Jarre, Vangelis, Tangerine Dream.
Wow, so that ad clearly shows this strong crossover appeal.
Between the early computer geeks, the people who loved fiddling with hardware interfaces and sound chips.
And the fans of futuristic electronic music.
Yeah. The computer, especially with its sound capabilities and the potential for sequencing music, was being seen as like the ultimate electronic instrument, a fusion of tech and art.
That's really cool. What other niches?
Well, the educational market was massive in the UK, partly thanks to government initiatives like the BBC Micro project.
Right, getting computers into schools was a big push.
And we see software companies catering directly to that. Summerfield Software advertised programs with titles like Equations of Lines and Tank Tracks, clearly educational.
Using classrooms.
Explicitly so. And their pricing showed an awareness of the educational context.
How?
They offered discounts, 5% off for regular schools and a really generous 15% off for special schools.
That's interesting. It shows that even while these programs were likely expensive to develop, there was a recognition that schools needed support to access them. Micros were becoming vital curriculum tools.
Definitely. And one more niche. Self-improvement again, but this time through language learning.
Ah, using the computer to learn French or German.
Exactly. The Linkword courses. Advertised as being available on cassette tapes for a whole range of machines. Spectrum, BBC, Commodore, even the IBM PC.
So they covered both the home and business markets. What was their selling point?
That using their computer-based method was faster and more enjoyable than traditional language learning, like using books or just audio tapes.
Capitalizing on the novelty and interactivity of the computer.
Yeah, using the Micro to sell a personal achievement product across all the different computer platforms.
It's fascinating. All these different groups, the business user, the home hobbyist, the musician, the teacher, the language learner.
All reading the same magazine, all grappling with the same fundamental challenges.
High costs, technical headaches, and this underlying need to justify the computer as a worthwhile investment in.
Well, in a better future, I suppose.
Yeah, a future powered by silicon, but one that cost a fortune to get into. Hashtag outro. Well, this deep dive into just 1 month's worth of ads, January 1985, has really painted a vivid picture, hasn't it?
It really has. A market full of ambition, innovation, but also defined by an almost punishingly high barrier to entry.
Yeah, the pricing, the complexity, the constant struggle to just make things work together. It reveals so much about what technology really meant and cost 4 decades ago.
So let's quickly recap the main takeaways, the sort of key economic and tech lessons we've pulled out.
Okay, go for it.
First, the true cost of getting into serious computing in 1985 Often it wasn't the main computer box itself, the CPU.
Right. Surprisingly often, it was the peripherals you needed to actually use it.
Yeah, dramatically more cost went into things like the printer, that 5,500-pound equivalent daisy wheel,
Mm.
or the storage, that 4,900-pound 10-megabyte hard disk.
The accessories, the interfaces, the storage, that's where a huge chunk of the capital investment went, especially for serious users.
Second, compatibility. It was just chaos, a total Wild West situation.
Absolutely no universal standards like we have today.
Which meant users were constantly paying this interface tax, spending hundreds, sometimes thousands in today's money, on specialized adapter boxes, cables, hardware interfaces.
And often needing expert help from workshops just to guarantee that device A could reliably talk to device B.
Yeah.
It was a constant battle.
Third, the marketing. It really reflected a huge cultural effort underway.
How so?
The industry was desperately, aggressively trying to legitimize the microcomputer, to establish it as an essential tool for serious business and for personal self-improvement.
Moving it away from that toy image.
Exactly. Using bundles, using strong aspirational language, sometimes using fear tactics, all to justify those enormous prices and make the technology seem indispensable, not just a novelty.
Which brings us, I suppose, to a final thought for you, the listener, to ponder, reflecting on just how much friction there was back then.
Yeah, compare that 1985 experience to today. Our technology now is incredibly convenient, it's relatively affordable, and crucially, it's mostly plug and play.
We have USB, we have Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Things just connect. Software usually installs easily, and you don't typically need a 740-pound training course just to operate a spreadsheet.
We've gained so much convenience, so much mass access, which is fantastic, but did we lose something too?
What do you mean?
Did that inherent struggle back then, that high barrier to entry, that absolute necessity of wrestling with the technology, figuring things out, soldering cables, reading manuals?
But it fostered a different kind of relationship with the tech.
Maybe. A deeper sense of technical pioneering, perhaps. A feeling of mastery achieved through hard work. When every connection was a battle won and every program mastered felt like a major accomplishment.
Did that create a type of user, a type of engagement that's maybe harder to find now when everything often works seamlessly right out of the box?
It's just a thought. Have we traded deep mastery for effortless convenience?
It's definitely something to think about. It's just incredible, really, that the simple act of printing a document, something we do without a second thought today.
Once required this vast, complex, specialized, and unbelievable costly infrastructure, physical, technical, and even educational.
Times have certainly changed.
They certainly have. Until next time, keep your curiosity sharp.
And may your printers never, ever require a workshop visit.